All right, everybody. UnHappy Wednesday. Coming to you live from my humble abode here in the 513. This is the UnHappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and part of the Green Legion Radio family. We thank you, as always, for joining us from wherever you may be, whatever device you're using, and whatever service you are streaming us with. We are pushing YouTube, but we are also available on Facebook and X. So please, pull up a chair. Turn up the volume if I'm not quite loud enough for you. Use the company dime if, God forbid, you're still stuck at work. Crack open a cold one if that's your thing on a Wednesday night. And let's try to have some fun as we put an end to day 3 of this week's hostage situation and look forward to tomorrow being Friday Eve. Already in the room, Lou Mancini, my man. What's going on, brother? Russ Taylor joins us. Let's talk about the ladies at cheerleaders in Philadelphia. Russ, again, I'm going to start a riot in Philly over the World Cup and the tailgate scandal. Jesus Christ. Oh, boy. We're off to a flying start here already. No Mason tonight. Due to work conflict and whatnot. He wasn't getting out of work until probably about 6:30 or so. So it wasn't going to work out this week. And I told him, this week in particular, you're the week before the draft, right? Next week's the bigger deal. So I am going to, I'm going to try to touch base with Quimby, make sure he doesn't have anything planned for next Thursday night, round 1. If he's got something planned to use the StreamYard channel, then we won't be able to do it. But right now, if that's not a thing, the plan would next week be you'll get a double dose of my fat ass. We would be Thursday night, UnHappy and the MP, leading up to the round 1. And then next Friday night, it will be the UnHappy Gilmore Show live at the Back Porch Saloon in the Midwest Eagles Nest, where we will go live probably about 6:30 next Friday night and, be on for about an hour and a half. Draft coverage for rounds 2 and 3 will start at 7 next Friday night. And I will have a few folks there who are going to jump on and give their opinions of what's been going on with the Birds, what may or may not have happened round 1, what they think may happen Friday night and through the rest of the draft and possibly the offseason as well. John Lynch will be likely part of that rotation. He's been on here before. Roger Slicker, another one of our, one of our Midwest Eagles Nest stalwarts. He intends to pop on for a few. Dad, Dave Thompson. Probably try to get him on for a few minutes. And my son, Liam. Sounds like he wants to hop in next Friday night and give his thoughts as well. Figure we'll spend 10 minutes or so with each person. And that'll fill, so we'll do the normal launch of the show. Then we'll do do the sponsorship. And then I'll run my mouth for a few minutes. And then we'll start bringing people on, and hopefully that fills up about an hour, and maybe a little bit more. So that's the plan for next week. Double dose of UnHappy Gilmore, UnHappy in the MP next Thursday night, leading you into round 1. Provided Quimby doesn't already have plans for the StreamYard channel, and then next Friday night, leading you into rounds 2 and 3. UnHappy Gilmore show live from the back porch, the Midwest Eagles Nest at the back porch saloon here in Westchester, Ohio. That's your rundown. Who else is in the room here? Keenan Harmon joins the room. How can you outlaw tailgating at a Philly sporting event? Yeah, I don't understand. Now, you want to talk about boner of the week. Dude, there's one right there. We're going to have a little fun with that tonight, too. So just bear with me as I get rolling here. Terry Pettyjohn, do you know if the draft party will be at the stadium this year? I don't know that. I'm sure a quick Google search could tell you. Let's, before I do the sponsorship, let's see if we can't find out for you. Will there be a draft party at Lincoln Financial Field? Let's see. Philadelphia Eagles fantasy football draft night. No, that's not what we're looking for. I don't know, guys. You're closer to it there than I am, so you're going to have to probably take a look at that. I'm not seeing anything, but we'll take a look back at it again here in a little bit. Russ, did anybody notice the WNBA had their draft? My friend David Conant did. I could give a shit. It's just not my thing. I saw Angel Reese got traded. Like, who gives a shit? We'll see. Anyways, let me get through the business end of things here, and then I'm gonna give you an update on Grady, and then we'll get off and have some fun here, and then we'll call it a night. So Michelle not quite home yet, but we are gonna read her favorite part of the show. Anyways, everyone, we are proudly sponsored by the beautiful women at Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Just minutes away from the sports complex, Cheerleaders brings you the area's most beautiful women on 5 different stages. Open 7 days a week from noon until 2 a.m. and until 4 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. Also offering free parking, a full menu, daily drink and food specials, and a premium selection of cigars in a cigar lounge. If you're looking for a place to watch your favorite sporting event, and I got to believe that the sports complex is probably jumping tonight. You got the Phillies first pitch against the Cubs at 6:40. You got the Sixers at home in the play-in with a 7:30 tip-off against the Magic. Win, and you are in, Sixers fans. If you're looking for a place to check all that out and you can't get out to the ballpark or over to the arena, head on over to Cheerleaders and enjoy the 75-foot HD TV wall, as well as HD TV screens throughout the entire club. Once again, folks, that is Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Call 215-467-1980 for all of your group and party information. Yeah, that sports complex has got to be through the roof tonight. Rush Cheerleaders! Yeah. How's the steak at Cheerleaders, says Keenan. Well, let's see. Lou Mancini says, Backyard Cravings is working on opening up a brick and mortar. The cheesesteak is my white whale. Ah, there you go. I've not been back to Philly in a few years, and I can tell you when I went back there and I had Angelo's, man, that is definitely a religious experience. We don't really have a place like that here in the Cincinnati area. It just doesn't work out that way. There is a place just north of Indianapolis called Hoagies and Hops, where they are originally from the Philly area. They bring in all their ingredients from Philly, South Jersey, and they do it absolutely perfect. They do it right. It is a true Philadelphia cheesesteak, and it's fantastic. Anyways, folks, at the bottom of your screen, scrolling along the bottom on the banner there, greenlegion.com. If you are looking to get out on the road and check out an away game, you will not find a better way to do it. Head on over to greenlegion.com. Click on trips and tailgates. Find the trip you want to go on and buy away unless it says sold out. So right now, and we will pull that site up for you. I keep meaning to do this before I get on here, and every week I fuck it up. So let's get the Green Legion site pulled up here real quick. Philadelphia Eagles road trips and trips and tailgates, away games and road trips. So, we are at Nashville, at Arizona, at San Francisco, at Chicago, at Jacksonville, at Dallas. Then, of course, the 2 bus trips, one to Washington against the Commodes, the other one up to the Swamp against the Giants. If you're looking to get out on the road, I have personally been to Nashville, Arizona, and Dallas with the Green Legion. Excellent trips. That Dallas tailgate is fantastic. I was supposed to be on that one last year. Work got in the way. Ended up having to cancel it. Pissed off Quimby. Not exactly what you want to do, but I ended up having to do so. Nashville this year is the one that my wife and I are looking to be on, and I know Keenan is chomping at the bit to get out on that one as well. Nashville, baby. So book away. Get yourself reserved. You will not find a better way to travel and for Birds games than with the Green Legion. I know there's competition out there. There's other organizations. I understand. If you've traveled with them and you haven't with the Green Legion yet, go ahead and give us a shot. And then you go ahead and tell us what you think afterwards. The longest tenured and easily the best in the business, the Green Legion. Also for your home tailgates, right down there at Stateside Live, right at the Sports Complex. Get yourself signed up for those as soon as those become available. And we will see you out there on the road. You'll probably catch me in Nashville this year. When the schedule comes out, we'll make the final decision. Right now, that's looking like May 11th, I think, was the report from Adam Schefter. So, and we'll see what the date is. We know who we're playing. We know where we're playing them. We just don't know the dates yet. So hopefully that Nashville one works out. I am also possibly going to try to sneak up to Chicago to get to Soldier Field before they move to Gary, Indiana, which will be really odd. But for that one, Chicago, that would be a very quick in and out. It's only a 5-hour drive for me. So up and back, I may bring my son on that one if I can swing it. We'll see. Anyways, folks, that's your spiel. So let me get let's get over to the room here again real quick. Terry Pettyjohn, did you hear if BG is coming back? Have not. That's he's still got some time. We'll see. Look, I give you my quick opinion on Brandon Graham. Obviously we all love BG, right? There's no question about it. He is an Eagles legend. He had number 55 in your playbooks, number 1 in your hearts, all of those things. That man doesn't owe us anything. And I personally, I'd like him to still be part of the team. I don't want to see him come out onto the field and risk getting hurt again or anything like that. I would much rather see him, be still a part of the team in some capacity because his leadership is excellent. But, the playing end of it, hey, look, if he still feels like he's got something in the tank, then we need to clear a spot for him. That's the way I would look at it. Sam Haley, what's up, darling? How are you? Long time no see. Hopefully get to see you next week, next Friday. Shout out to Gwen Stefani for teaching a generation how to spell. Jesus Christ. All right. Real quick. Yeah, Lou, Keenan's got you there. It is Stateside Live. It's no longer it's called Stateside Live now. Same spot. That's where the tailgates are. No different, just different name. So, Sam, you're trying. Try. Do or do not. There is no try. Quote Yoda. Anyways, I know a lot of you have been with me all, through these last few years here doing this, and you follow me on social media. We're friends on social media and all of that stuff. So I'm going to give you a quick update on Grady. You guys know, obviously, he finished his basic training last November, and he moved on to his AIT at Fort Meade. You guys know that got completed a couple of weeks ago when we were there. It was Good Friday when he graduated that. So he has, this past weekend, got sent to Fort where he's going to do his airborne training. So they stick him, they bring him and another soldier to the airport, and Grady makes the call to the fort that they're going to. I don't want to divulge too much specific location here at this point. And he gets told, that they're like, okay, so they're flying them to an airport that is 2 hours away from the base. So Grady makes the phone call, and he's told by the officer there, by the sergeant there, okay, just get here when you get here. You're on your own getting here from the airport. So you got my 18 going on 19-year-old son and another 23-year-old soldier who now have to figure out how to get 2 hours from the airport all the way to the fort to start their training. Needless to say, they got there. It was not cheap. And so they got there on last Friday evening, late. Saturday, Sunday, getting set up and, ready to start their training. Monday morning, they had them up at formation at 4:15 a.m. And their first thing they had to do was a pretty rigid physical test. And this was to enter the course. If they failed this physical test, it's immediately recycled, which means they sit there until another group comes in and then they try again. So the physical test was a 3-mile run going out at 3 miles at a 9-minute pace, followed by a 200-meter water can carry, then a 100-meter sandbag carry, then 6 chin-ups, and 3 miles back at 4:15 in the morning. So Grady was a little nervous. That's a lot. He was mostly concerned about the chin-ups. He's been actually running and he enjoys it. So he was nervous about the chin-ups, and he had probably already completed it by the time I was going to work. But we got a message from him that evening that he had passed. He had completed it. A bunch of people did not. And unfortunately, I guess today, the young soldier who traveled with him down to this base decided to quit that part of the program. I don't know what the hell happens to them at that point. But Grady wasn't all that thrilled about it. But that was the kid he was with was the other soldier he was with was part of the class they graduated from at their AIT training. So they spent a good amount of time together. They traveled down there together. They had to figure out the 2-hour commute from the airport to the base together. There was a lot. And then he washed out just a couple of days later. So apparently it's pretty tough down there. As well it should be, right? This portion of the training is 3 weeks long, and it is to teach these young men and women how to properly jump out of a perfectly good airplane. I would expect it to be tough, right? So as long as all goes well here going forward, he will finish that and graduate from there on May 1st, Friday, May 1st. So I would be looking to head down to that graduation, probably leave the Wednesday, the 29th in the evening, get a bunch of the journey out of the way, finish it up on Thursday the 30th, be there on Friday the 1st. And what he did get to tell us is that it's likely I will not get to spend a whole lot of time with him at this graduation. It's very likely that he is finished, has to go immediately pack up all of his stuff, and then be ready for transport to where his duty station will be, which will be Fort Bragg in North Carolina. So he's off and rolling. He's, we're Wednesday of the first week of this training. It is a 3-week training. I'd imagine it gets harder as they go along. But he's doing well so far. He's in good spirits. Talk to him pretty much every evening. Sounds like he's doing great. That's your update on Grady, the young private alpaca, as we were calling him. Keenan Harmon. Call the NPs and tell them you're in uniform and they'll get them right. Nice. Russ Taylor, did you at least maybe having to coerce it? So Russ, again, he has to jump out of the airplane like Steve Rogers. Did he jump out without a parachute? Yeah, no, he better not. Or obviously we have some problems. Joyce Russ in the room. Hello to all. That's my mother. How you doing? All right. That is your business end of things. That is the Grady update. Now, let's get on to a little bit of fun here as we are the week before the draft. One thing quick before we get to that. One thing quick about your fighting Phils. I know I've seen a lot of you with frustrations and out of the gates, kind of sick and tired of hearing about how much talent this team has on their roster, and especially early in the year, seeing them stumble. What I will tell you is the Phillies are one of 16 teams across all of Major League Baseball that are either at 500 or within a game to game and a half of 500. So half of the league has been average to this point. All right. So nobody's running away with anything right now. I would, obviously if you get through May, you guys know my spiel. You've been with me for a few years here. As far as the baseball season goes, I don't usually take my first real pulse until June 1st. Not that I'm not watching, not that I'm not screaming at my own TV watching the Yankees, but so if you get to June 1st, you're still hovering around just 500. Yeah, you might have some problems. Okay. And good luck to your Sixers tonight. Win and you are in that the play-in tournament thing there. You're taking on the 8 seed Orlando Magic. They're in Philadelphia. Winning, you're in. You'd be the 7 seed, and your reward for that is a first-round series against the Boston Celtics. Good luck, fellas. I'll be rooting. If you end up in there playing the Celtics, for damn sure I will be rooting for you because I hate everything Boston sports. Period. End of story. Keenan Harbin, in other words, all baseball teams suck. Half the league is average right now. It's a little odd. I think it was actually worse a couple of days ago when I first looked at it. I think everybody was like 7-8 or 8-7, outside of a few outliers that were a few games worse than that, and a couple that were a few games better than that. Yeah, nobody's really off and rolling with it. I mean, the Dodgers are the Dodgers, all that kind of shit. But nobody really taking off. The Dodgers are 13-4. So the quest for 150 victories continues here. Yeah, I mean, you've got. Yeah, I mean the Pirates are 10-7, the Reds are 10-7, the freaking Cardinals are 10-8. These things aren't going to last, Dodgers and Padres, I would expect that to continue, but nobody's running away with this, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Give the season some time. Yes, you can lose a pennant in April. You can't win one, but with the whole league hovering around league average, around 500, you're not in any kind of dire straits. All right, let's get on to it. The boner of the week, and I thought we'd get a little nostalgia here. We're going to flash back, keeping with the draft theme and the Raiders having the top pick. We are going to flash back 19 years to the 2007 NFL draft for this week's boner of the week. I'm sure you guys all know where we're going here, but I've got some of this goes deeper than just the funny shit right on the surface. So, like I said, we're going to flash back 19 years to the 07 draft when the then Oakland Raiders had the top pick and spent it on probably the biggest bust in NFL draft history. LSU quarterback Jamarcus Russell. guys have been following football long enough. You guys know the story, right? He has a monster 2006 season with LSU. And I mean monster, okay? First team all SEC. That included beating out Florida quarterback Chris Leak. So, like I said, huge season. He led the SEC in completion percentage, yards per attempt, yards per completion, and passer rating. I believe that completion percentage was just a tick under 70% for the year. Pretty impressive. His measurables were off the charts, 6'5", 230 pounds, big arm. And again, that accuracy was a sight to behold. So with the first pick in the 2007 NFL draft, the Oakland Raiders select Jamarcus Russell, quarterback, LSU. And that was the high point of that of that whole experience for the Raiders. So what does Jamarcus do? Now keep in mind, this is back before the NFL had put in a structure around what rookies could get paid. So this is when, top pick quarterbacks were still bending teams over for money. He holds out all the way through training camp. Okay. This goes on into September. On September 12th, Oakland gives him a then record-setting contract. 6-year deal worth up to $68 million with $31.5 million guaranteed. Now, I know nowadays you'd look at that and be like, pfft. But at the time, that was the record-setting deal, right? 31.5 guaranteed, shattered the records. So, comes in. And again, it just continues to go downhill from there. He never amounts to a goddamn hill of beans. He ends up out of the league after the 2009 season, having appeared in just 31 games overall, only 25 starts. His completion percentage that he had such a huge one in his final year at LSU with almost 70%. His career completion percentage in the NFL, 52%. He threw for a total of 4,083 yards in those 31 games. Yeah. 18 touchdowns to go along with 23 interceptions. He also fumbled the ball 25 times. He had an overall passer rating of 65.2, and his highest single season QBR was 2008, and the QBR for that season was an abysmal 29.2. He was dog shit. The coaches at one point, and this was the real funny part, I'm sure you guys remember this. The coaches at one point gave him blank DVDs. So back then, DVDs were the thing you would film study and game plan study on DVDs. You'd be supplied those by the team, and you would watch this stuff, and that was how that was your film study, your individual film study. The coaches gave him blank DVDs to test him because they knew that he was dicking off. He had put on weight. It was just, he got that contract and just they give him these blank DVDs to see if he was actually reviewing game plans. There's nothing on it. And when asked about it by the coaching staff, Jamarcus Russell said, he claimed to have watched them all and was studying all the film. The whole thing was just nightmare fuel for Raider Nation. But for the rest of us, pure fucking awesomeness. So that's just the Jamarcus Russell part, right? That's just the contract, the gaining the weight, the horrible play on the field, the blank DVDs, blah, 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 blah. It gets worse, and I told you I had an added wrinkle to this. When you look at the 2007 draft class, and we'll just focus on the first round picks, right? We're not going to go into the whole draft. We'll just look at the first round picks who came after Jamarcus Russell. Remember, he was the number 1 overall pick. So all of these guys all this stuff I'm about to tell you are from guys that were taken after him. meaning the Raiders could have taken any one of these dudes. Okay? There are 4 current this is just from the first round. There are 4 current Hall of Famers. 4. Calvin Johnson, who went number 2 overall to the Lions. Offensive tackle Joe Thomas, who went number 3 overall to the Cleveland Browns. Linebacker Patrick Willis, who went 11th overall to the 49ers. And cornerback Darrelle Revis, who went 14th overall to the Jets. That's the 2 picks immediately after Russell. And 3 of those 4 teams in the Lions, Browns, and Jets, who, let's face it, folks, weren't then and still aren't now generally known for being for their draft day prowess, right? The Lions have been better over the last few years, but the Jets, Browns, come on. And even they got it right. There will likely be at least 2 more Hall of Famers from that first round. Adrian Peterson went 7th overall to the Vikings. The only thing that would keep him out of the Hall of Fame is if they judge him harshly on his character for some of the off the field stuff. Marshawn Lynch went 12th overall to the Bills. Now you can say you can look at Marshawn and be like, well, is he really a Hall of Famer? Well, he's probably going to get in at some point. The guy's got, I think it's 12,627 total yards rushing and receiving to go along with 94 career touchdowns. Yeah, Marshawn's probably getting in at some point. Might take a little while, might be somewhere down the road, but he's probably getting in. And Peterson's going to get in too. That makes 6 Hall of Famers picked in that first round after the Raiders took Jamarcus Russell. Aside from those guys, it's not even including the 6 names I just mentioned. There were 11 other players that were picked in that first round that made at least 1 Pro Bowl appearance. And I know, we've talked about this ad nauseum. Hollis used to harp on this a lot. And he's right. The Pro Bowl thing is, and especially now where a lot of the guys don't go, so people get in kind of by default, they kind of back into it. The Pro Bowls don't mean it, but you had to be at least good enough to be considered, right? So likely 6 Hall of Famers and 11 other guys who were good enough to make at least 1 Pro Bowl appearance. That is 17 other picks. That's more than half of the draft was easily worth more than Jamarcus Russell. And not only did the Raiders spend that number 1 overall pick, they gave him a record-breaking contract on top of it. Folks, if that's not nostalgic draft time boner of the week at its best, I don't know what is. And I chose to focus on that because here we are again, 19 years later, and we are a week away from the Oakland Raiders being once again at the top of the draft with the number 1 overall pick. And here we are again with whispers that they may not do what everyone thinks they're going to do. We'll talk about that. But the bottom line with the Jamarcus Russell thing, and we'll put a bow on our boner of the week here, I don't think you can describe it any other way but Olympic caliber, galactically stupid. Congratulations to the Raiders. I hope my friend Cap, not our Cap, not the defender. I've got another very good friend who I've known for, 32 years now. He's been like an older brother to me as well. He is a Raiders fan, and I know that hurts his soul. All right, over to the room. Russ Taylor. 76ers will be waiting on Embiid to come back and get injured. Well, that won't take long. Keenan Harmon. This is also Jamarcus Russell, and fired in 2022 as an assistant high school coach for stealing $76,000 that was supposed to be a donation to the school. What'd you do with the $68 million, dick? Unbelievable. Lou, not bad. Marinovich is another good one. If you guys got other suggestions for possible biggest busts overall, go ahead and throw them out there in the comment section. We'll get back to them as we're going through the rest of this stuff here. But I just couldn't resist the opportunity to take a shot at the Raiders tonight for the Jamarcus Russell. It's 19 years ago they were at the top of the draft and ended up doing this, and now here we are 8 days away from it. So we'll see what they do this time, and that kind of ties us into our next section. Now, look, the intent was that Mason was going to be with me tonight, and I was going to have him look at the top 10, find a team, in that top 10 that he thought was in an interesting spot and kind of elaborate on who they may or may not take, who he thinks they should take. Unfortunately, Mason couldn't join us tonight, so we're just going to run with my thing. And I stayed with the Raiders, just keeping with that same consistent theme. This part isn't so much a bashing as it is, looking at what they're, looking at what's in front of them and what they, what they should or shouldn't do. I mean, the whole world believes that they should take Fernando Mendoza. And I'm one of those people. I think it for a few different reasons, which we'll get to here. But one thing I do want to do that I told you I would do when I teased the show, we're going to go ahead and copy this, and we're going to paste it into here. So if any of you maniacs want to jump in, there's the link. If you want to jump in and give your opinion on the boner of the week, maybe a little draft opinion. Not really focused so much on the Eagles this week, just trying to have a little fun. Next week, we're going to be heavy on the Birds. 23rd pick overall in the first round, and then what we may or may not do after that. But there's your link. And, we're trying to keep it – the theme is the draft and, draft day busts and stuff like that. So let's keep it consistent here. I'm not here to talk about the Sixers and the Magic tonight. Good luck to you. I hope you win, and I hope you go beat the brakes off the Celtics. You guys all know that. But I'm not here to talk about that tonight. I'm not here to talk about baseball much tonight. I'm sure Keenan's very happy about that. I did touch on that a little bit, but we are here strictly to talk about some draft fun, while I'm here flying solo this evening. So, you can look at Mel Kiper's board, that pontificating blowhard. Often, I mean, he does get some. It's not like he's totally off base. Last year, obviously, he just couldn't get over the whole Shedeur Sanders thing, which I thought was hysterical. He just kept tripping over his own pompadour. It made me laugh. But so the Raiders, which is where I stayed consistent with that. So we're going to start talking about this year's draft. Well, you start at the top. And the number one overall pick is the now Las Vegas Raiders. They signed Kirk Cousins. And if you just look at the contract that they gave him as a whole, 5 years, $172 million, you're like, well, they're not drafting a quarterback. Pump the brakes. Because when you look at the details of the contract, it's truly only a 1 year, $20 million guarantee. And I get it. Only $20 million for a guy that make me carry a clipboard. I got it. But I think, it felt like kind of a smart sign. For one, you bring in a veteran who's been around, right? All those years in Washington, all those years in Minnesota. He's got plenty of experience. He's done well regular season wise, as long as he's not having to play much in primetime games. And, a guy that can kind of show a rookie how to be a professional in the league. All right. Couple that with, yes, the contract 5 years, 172. So if for some reason the Raiders draft a quarterback, which we all believe they will, and it doesn't work out, they've got a bit of a safety net there. They would just have to stay committed to Kirk Cousins at that point. So maybe they're trying to hedge their bets. Guaranteeing only 1 year at $20 million tells me that they are drafting a quarterback, and they believe that quarterback is going to be their future, right? Which is what they should do. Fernando Mendoza is the reigning Heisman winner, national champion, albeit leading the Indiana Hoosiers to a football championship, right? Let's not forget that part. Not like Fernando Mendoza transferred to Alabama or Ohio State or, Michigan or, a USC or something like that. He transferred to Indiana and led Indiana to an undefeated season and a national title in football. That's a huge deal. Wins the Heisman Trophy along the way. He's also been talked about very much as a good person, from a very solid family, and what I think is most, things that we can totally see, and especially from some of the articles you read about him, his natural leadership qualities. It's everything you want from your quarterback to, from the guy you want to draft to lead your team, right? And that's the quarterback. He's far and away the highest rated quarterback in this year's draft. Now, and I put a little asterisk on that because this year's quarterback draft class is not the who's who of this. It's not like 1983 coming back here with, Elway, Marino, Jim Kelly, and all these maniacs, right? It's not a deep class. Right, you've got Mendoza, Ty Simpson, Carson Beck, Drew Aller. It's not very deep. It's next year's appears to be much more talented overall. But be that as it may, he is the top, far and away rated quarterback, and rightfully so. Heisman winner, undefeated season, national championship for the Indiana Hoosiers. Great leadership qualities. One of the first things he did when he got to Indiana was he went to the coaching staff and asked for a printout of each player on the team's picture and their bio so he could learn about all of his teammates. That's a leader, guys. That's what you want out of your quarterback. That these are the things you want to see. So if you're going to take a quarterback in this year's draft, and you're the number one pick, and you need the quarterback, Mendoza's the guy, right? There are rumors out there that Ty Simpson from Bama, I don't know how much I buy into it. I don't think you can go any other way. There is another reason for it, though, okay? There is the fact that, well, let's just say, for example, you're the GM of the Raiders, and you've got the top pick, and you're desperate for a quarterback. And here's this kid, Mendoza, for all the things we just mentioned. Heisman, national championship at Indiana, great family, solid leader, drinks his milk, eats his vitamins, all the things, right? If you don't, and he's and the whole world is telling you this is the guy. If you see all that and you don't take him, and he goes somewhere else and blows up, meanwhile you take a Ty Simpson, and Ty Simpson is never more than a league average quarterback, you are fired. Just instantly, you are fired on the spot. I mean, I don't know how you couldn't be. But if you take all the advice, you look at all the intangibles, you look at the record, you look at what Mendoza was able to accomplish, and the quality of the young man and his background and his yada, yada, yada. And you do draft him and he doesn't pan out, you're probably safe, right? Where else were you supposed to go, right? He's the obvious pick for a team at the top of the draft who's desperate for a quarterback. He's the obvious pick. If he doesn't work out, you've got the luxury of, not throwing him under the bus, but allowing the blame to fall on 39-year-old, rookie head coach Clint Kubiak and his coaching staff. They're the failure there. Look what he did. Look what he did with Kurt Signetti at Indiana. Trying to tell me you couldn't get the best out of this kid? Come on here. I'm just saying. If you're the GM of the Raiders, you have to think about your own job survival too. And in that regard, there's Liam. And in that regard, you have to take Fernando Mendoza. You can't go another direction. The only thing I would say, and this is where the Raiders got really hurt by that whole fallout with the Max Crosby to Baltimore thing. The Raiders were looking at the possibility of having this number 1 overall pick and then getting 2 other first-round picks. Baltimore's this year and next year and so on and so forth. In which case, they would be able to draft Mendoza and add a first-round talent skill position guy on the outside, wide receiver, or do you take a tackle, to protect the kid? All of those things are on the table. And when that trade fell through, now they've got to be more strategic. Yes, I still say you have to take Fernando Mendoza for all of the things we just talked about. For Mendoza himself, what he's accomplished, your job security as a GM, all of those things. But, if you look at the draft order, Raiders aren't the only team that needs a quarterback, right? So let's pull up the 2026 NFL draft order. Let's just see here. And if this stupid site would open up. So let's look to the middle rounds. Look at, say, what the hell is that? The Vikings. They're out on, they just went and got the midget from Arizona, so I guess they're good there. Pittsburgh at number 21. Could you fleece the Steelers out of a whole bag of picks to fix a bunch of holes on your roster, keep Cousins as a Band-Aid, and let the Steelers go ahead and take the quarterback? That's, something like that. That's about the only way I would see the Raiders not taking Mendoza. What I'm saying is, if they keep the number 1 pick, the number 1 overall pick, it's got to be Fernando Mendoza. There's just nothing else that makes any sense. I just put that link back up there if you want to pop in. We got about 10 minutes to go here, and then we're going to get on out of here for the night. But that's my thoughts on it, guys. That's my thoughts on that number 1 pick. You got, who is it at number 2? God damn it. I just had this pulled up. I've really got to be more prepared for this. No. Expected. There we go. So at number 2 is the Jets. I guess they could use a quarterback too, but you're not going to move back 1 spot. What the fuck would you do that for? Right? The whole world is saying Mendoza to the Raiders. It just has to be that way. Right now, Kuiper is projecting the Giants to take Caleb Downs, safety from Ohio State. If you take a look at his combine numbers, he was actually, I think I have his 40 time somewhere in my notes from the combine. Those are the tight ends. Yeah, Caleb Downs. He was lightning quick. Where the fuck is he? There he is, Caleb Downs. Yeah, for like the dude, him and his brother, blazing speed. So that's the so that's what they're saying the Giants are going to do. They're saying the Cowboys and Browns may trade with each other, leaving the Cowboys with the 6th pick, taking Ohio State linebacker Sonny Styles. Wouldn't be a big fan of that. They've got the Commodes taking Ohio State wide receiver Cardell Tate. That would be a nice number 2 option for them to line up along, across, opposite of Terry McLaurin. Andy Bagley, what's up, brother? How are you? We only got a few minutes left here, boss. Saints, Ruben Bain. Chiefs taking a wide receiver. I guess. I think one of the names to watch for in the first round is Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love. Kuiper has him going 4th overall to the Titans. You could totally see it. They could use a weapon there and help in the backfield with Cam Ward. And because they've been really, Tony Pollard, I mean, he did a nice season and all, but and Jeremiah Love is as advertised. Now, I get that the Combine is just the underwear Olympics and all, but watching him live and what you watch for there is the way he runs his routes, the way he, it's crisp, right? He's not kind of jerking around too much. When he's running, it's a fluent motion. His head's not jostling around a whole bunch. He was very, very fast. He looked the part. Number 4 is a high pick. What I will tell you is he's not getting past the Chiefs at number 9. All right. If he's there at number 9, I think the Chiefs take Jeremiah Love. But it's a name to watch for in that first round. What else? So Alabama tackle Caden Proctor. Kuiper's projecting that at number 12 to the Browns via the trade with the Cowgirls. Who does he have us taking? He's usually stupid. Blake Miller. This was one of the ones that Mason had called out, the tackle from Clemson. I mean, it's not like I see us trading up to get anything here. I think we'll stay right there at 23, and we'll take the best player available at a position of need, or trade back. Position of need, it has to start with, we've beaten this to death for weeks now, and we're probably going to do it again next week, is it's the offensive line, right? With the Lane Johnson on his, his days are numbered. You've got Dickerson that was contemplating retirement just this past offseason. You got to start restocking the farm here with top-level talent. Andy Bagley. You want Proctor with the first. So I think Andy, I hate to say it, but I think the only way we're going to get Proctor is if we trade up to get him. And we'd probably have to trade up quite a bit. He's a really talented guy. He feels like the biggest slam. He feels like the most sure thing tackle in the draft, right? Doesn't feel like there's a project you have to do around him. Mason and I talked about this, about that you don't have Stoutland there in the same capacity anymore. So are you really in a spot to go take a tackle that is going to need a whole shitload of work? Or are you better off, can we get the surefire thing? Proctor fits that mold. He's got the measurables. He feels like the guy that you could day one just be like, he's my guy. And if we were fortunate enough to get him, he would have that time sitting behind Lane to really learn the NFL position, the NFL ins and outs as far as the tackle goes, which, I mean, that would be tremendous. I got a feeling he's going to go too high in the draft for us to get him. So you probably are looking at more of a Blake Miller, stuff like that, but we'll see. Look, guys, in our last 5 minutes here, I'll just run it down for you real quick. So we went and signed Hollywood Brown, and his contract has incentives that could pay him up to $6.5 million. As of right now, he'd be your number 3 option. Pretty solid, right? It's a big upgrade at that spot. Look, I love Jahan Dotson. I'm a Penn State fan, but look, Hollywood Brown is a better player. You got to deal with some bullshit, but he's a better player, I think, anyways. Then they went and traded for Wicks, 6th and 7th rounder to the Packers to bring Wicks over. Which I'm like 6th and 7th rounder to get some more wide receiver depth, which we definitely needed, and bringing a guy that has worked with Sean Mannion before, our new offensive coordinator. I'm like, I get it. But then you see that we gave him a $12.5 million extension. It's whoa, what the fuck? Look, it's not. And I said it last week that I didn't want to talk about it this week, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that A.J. Brown gets traded. It's just not. Now, we wouldn't have the big body receiver anymore, which would really suck, but you're never going to be able to replace a guy like A.J. anyways. The other thing that I would tell you that is possible, though not likely, if we were able to get the right price tag, I think Howie would listen to all kinds of shit. But Jalen Carter, now that we have given the big interior defensive line contract to Jordan Davis, there's not going to be a time when we're paying both of them top of the market money. It's not going to happen. Howie doesn't do it. I'd be very surprised. Unless he's looking at, I guess if you ended up with Lane Johnson gone, that contract off the books, and then you had a younger guy there under a rookie deal, you'd have some more money to play with. I guess you could, but that's an awful lot to pay to two defensive tackles. And mind you, while Jordan Davis's contract is huge, Jalen Carter is going to break the bank. He is going to reset the market for that position and for defensive lineman, period. So is it possible that Jalen Carter is on the move? I would hope not. I would like to see those two stay together for at least one more year. But we'll see. Come draft time. Andy again here. What do you got? Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon, would be nice also. Saw him live at the combine. My son Liam was very high on him, so we were paying extra close attention to him. Very skilled as a receiving tight end. I do have questions about his blocking ability. And I do worry a little bit that there's a Kyle Pitts tendency there. So, again, he's a nice player and all. But, again, I think you have to trade up to get him. And, if you've got to move up 8-10 spots to get a tight end, I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze. You got Goddard coming back one more year. The mistake we made, I don't know about mistake, because we did bring in Calcaterra, and I like that kid a lot. But a couple of years ago was a nice, deep tight end draft. I think it was the Brock Bowers draft. So Bowers at the top, which we were never going to get, but then it was deep, and we didn't go get another guy then. We kept with Goddard and Grant and Granson and all of these other guys, Jack Stoll. So, I don't think you're moving 8 to 10 spots up to get Sadiq. I could see us drafting a tight end, but I really find it hard to believe, first of all, that we're going anywhere else but offensive line in the first round. Second of all, I'd find it even harder to believe that if we did trade up, that it would be for a tight end. But, hey, stranger things have happened. We will see what next week brings. And that's going to about do it for us here tonight, folks. So, again, to recap what's coming next week, you get 2 doses of my fat ass next week. Right now, the plan is Mason and I to be on here, UnHappy and the MP, next Thursday night leading into round 1. That is contingent on me touching base with Quimby to make sure he doesn't already have plans for something with the StreamYard network here. That would be Thursday night, probably probably about the same, 6 o'clock. We'll take you to 7, and then you get onto your draft. Next Friday night, the UnHappy Gilmore show, live from the Midwest Eagles Nest at the Back Porch Saloon, where I will be joined by a few of our biggest contributors with the Midwest Eagles Nest. Dad, Roger, John Lynch, and I believe my son Liam's going to hop on and give his opinions for a few. So that'll be fun. Two chances to check us out next week, Thursday and Friday. We will not be Wednesday next week, at least as it stands right now. If anything changes, you guys will be the first to know. But until then, folks, thank you very much for joining tonight. I always appreciate the time. I love doing the show with Mason too, but it is nice every so often to be able to just come on here and talk to you all myself. We'll be back at it again next week. So until then, folks, have fun. Enjoy your upcoming weekend. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Remember, the judge is not back in until Monday. And as always, folks, go Birds.